Thank you for joining us today as we consider the subject of environmental answers from the Creator. Today I would like to speak to you firstly about the problems facing the world's climate, followed by an assessment of how we are going in regards to fixing these problems. We will then look at what the Bible has to say about how God intended the world to be, and finally we will conclude by looking at the title for today's talk, The Environmental Answers from the Creator, God. Since the Industrial Revolution, humans have burned increasingly large amounts of fossil fuels to power the industry which we have become reliant on to produce our everyday consumer needs and wants, whether that be the food we eat, to the clothes we wear, or the very piece of technology that you are watching this video on. As we burn these fossil fuels, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. This carbon dioxide then traps energy from the sun in the Earth's atmosphere, which results, on average, in global temperatures rising. Since the Industrial Revolution began, this trend, average global temperatures have risen by approximately 1 degree Celsius, according to NASA. And whilst 1 degree may not sound like much, and here in Tasmania, 1 degree warmer in the mornings might actually sound quite pleasant, this higher temperature increases the amount of moisture in the air, which in turn leads to more frequent and more intense weather events, such as torrential rains and cyclones. Here in Australia, we seem to be getting once in 50 or 100-year storm events, seemingly every other year. Meanwhile, in Africa, over the last 100 years, the world's largest sand desert, the Sahara, has grown by approximately 10%, or 554,000 square kilometres. This has and will continue to have an effect on displacing large amounts of people around the world. The United Nations has estimated that due to increases in temperatures, it will be even more challenging to feed the world's growing population. With a reduction in arable land due to desert growth, which largely affects some of the poorest regions of the world, or the destruction of crops from weather events such as rains and drought. They estimate this will result in approximately 180 million additional people being malnourished by the year 2050. Scientists also warn us that there is a serious risk that if we don't prevent or slow down drastically further warming, we may reach what is known as a tipping point, where, due to rising temperatures, several chain reactions may occur which would drive temperatures up uncontrollably. One example would be bushfires. With increased weather events, we'll get more lightning strikes, and hotter days will make it harder to fight these fires. As trees burn, of course, they release their carbon into the atmosphere, which further increases temperatures, causing more of these bushfires. Another example is melting ice sheets, which contain large amounts of carbon dioxide trapped in them. As this is released, of course, more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, more temperatures, more ice melt. If we were to pass this tipping point scientists speak of, it would be very hard, if not impossible, to slow down and prevent runaway temperature rising, which would end life as we know it on the world. Given the urgent nature of this threat and risk to humanity, if we do fail to curb carbon emissions, what have we been able to achieve? In 1995, world leaders from 170 countries and non-government organisations gathered in Berlin for the first United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Conference of Parties, alternatively known as COP. At this conference, all parties agreed on a need to reduce emissions. Since then, there has been 29 COP meetings, with goals, objectives and directives set, including the Kyoto Protocols and now the Paris Climate Agreements, with an aim to prevent global temperatures rising above 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels. a number that scientists feel, although not ideal, is manageable and will prevent us going over this tipping point. So, how are we going at meeting these goals? How much have we reduced carbon emissions by since 1995? Not a single gram. In fact, since the first COP, there has only been 2 years of declines in global carbon dioxide emissions. Once in 2009, following the global financial crisis, and then once again during the COVID pandemic in 2020, when we were all forced to stay home and not go out in our cars. 2023 carbon emission data showed approximately 14 billion metric tonnes more CO2 being emitted into the atmosphere every year, or a greater than 50% increase on emissions since 1995. This is all despite most countries around the world spending billions of dollars to try and decarbonise various sectors of their economy. The silver bullet that we have been promised and continue to get promised has always been new technology. Yet this magical technology has yet to materialise. A new generation of solar panels were going to be so much more efficient. Offshore wind was meant to provide limitless energy, but that is, in Australia, bogged down with legal battles over transmission lines. Green steel, hydrogen energy, electric cars or hydrogen cars, pumped hydro like the Snowy 2.0 scheme that is 7 years behind schedule and 12 billion over budget. Even next generation nuclear has been floated in Australia and rejected. However, time and time again, these solutions end up less efficient and more expensive than planned or promised, or simply are not delivered due to political lobbying from influential people who have something to gain from the current existing system. Here in Australia, this has resulted in both more expensive electricity and old coal-fired power plants staying online for longer. The leaders of the world today are clearly unable to meet the challenges of climate change and provide the solutions to prevent the world hurtling to its own destruction. But this is not how God intended the earth to be, and it's not how he created it. If we open our Bibles to the very beginning, Genesis chapter 1, we find the record of the creation of the earth by God. And I encourage you to read through these verses yourself. Today we will only be taking a very brief look at the record. As we read through the record, we see each day God creates a different aspect of the world around us. For example, on day 3, we see the creation of land and all manner of plant life in verses 9 to 12. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw it was good. On day 5, we see the creation of fish and birds. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament." And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. On day 6, all creatures that lived on the land, including humans, were created, in verses 24 to 31. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image, and created image of his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life. I've given every green herb for meat," and it was so. And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. At the end of each of these days of creation, we see the phrase repeated, "And God saw it was good." Every aspect of God's creation was perfect. And in the final verse of Genesis chapter 1, verse 31, the phrase is repeated, but slightly differently. "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good." When all of the good parts of God's creation were completed on the sixth day, they all fitted together perfectly. They were in perfect balance and harmony. All aspects of his creation were very good. When humans were created, the instruction was given to have dominion, or to rule over the earth. Throughout the years, this has often been interpreted to mean to exploit and destroy the natural world. But to rule over something also involves caring for it and nurturing that which we rule over, a task which I am sure you will agree humanity has failed at. So what's next? Is that it? Are we inevitably going to heat the world up and destroy nature until the earth is no longer habitable? Are we a failed species that God will allow to go extinct? Will God's very good creation cease to be? No, God will not allow for this to happen. God has a wonderful plan for the earth that he wants to include you and I in, dwelling in a renewed earth without any of the troubles of the present day. And we can find out what the world will be like in his word, the Bible. In Numbers 14 and verse 21, we read where God is speaking to Moses, and he explains his plan for the earth, where we read, "But as truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord." So what does this glory look like? It is a world that is filled with people who desire to worship God and are thankful for that which he has done for us. In a world that shall be returned to the state it was always intended to be in the beginning, when God created the earth very good. There are many passages that speak of this time, but let us just turn up and consider 4 of them that speak to us of the changed world that we can experience. Firstly, let us look at Isaiah chapter 35 and the first 2 verses. "The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice, even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it. The excellency of Carmel and Sharon, they shall see the glory of the Lord and the excellency of our God." The desert that is currently expanding and becoming furtherly more inhospitable will in the future be transformed into an oasis where people will rejoice at the flowering of the plants that previously could not have grown there. Let us continue and look at Psalm 72 verse 16. There shall be a handful of corn in the earth upon the top of the mountains. The fruit thereof shall shake like Lebanon, and they of the city shall flourish like grass of the earth. Here we see that the ground shall be so fertile that it is possible to grow crops in areas that previously seemed unimaginable. This is further expanded in Zechariah 8 verse 12. For the seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give her fruit, and the ground shall give her increase, and the heavens shall give their due. And I will cause the remnant of this people to possess all things. At this time we can see from these verses there will no longer be hunger or want for food caused by a negatively changed climate. Rather, the climate will be changed back to how God created it. We also see in the third of these verses that the promises made are to the remnant of this people. This is those who have served God, and we can be included in this group. Let us read one last passage together, taken from Isaiah chapter 11, a passage that speaks of this time we have been looking at, a time when Jesus will rule over the world justly, and when we will again be in harmony with the world around us. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. This is referring to Jesus, who was a descendant of Jesse. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, and the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord, and shall make him a quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth and with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And the righteous shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a child shall lead them, and the cow and the bear shall feed. Their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and the suckling child shall play in the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea, and in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. In these verses we see Jesus as rule over the earth, justly and with righteousness, not judging or ruling by the standards of today's leaders, who do not judge with equity. We read of the animals and people living in harmony together, and we are directly invited to be part of this glorious time. We, the Gentiles or non-Jewish people, are called to be part of the hope that was given in the Old Testament to the Jewish people. Today we have looked at the current state of the world's climate and how world leaders have no ability to solve the existential problems facing us. But we have found that this isn't how God intended for the world to be, and that he has a wonderful plan that you and I can be part of, where the world will no longer be ruled by greed, driving the planet to destruction, but instead by Jesus ruling and judging justly over a world that is in perfect balance. Thank you for joining us today as we considered the subject of environmental answers from the Creator. If you like this talk, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when the next Bible talk is uploaded. Be sure to browse our channel for other Bible talks, or you can visit our website, launcestonchristadelphians.org.au. where you will find links to other Bible information you may find of interest. We thank you again once for watching.